Alright, so here goes. I am the notorious LB3, and I'm committing myself now to doing 100 days of making comics. This was started by Kevin Cross a few years back, and basically it means I'm going to devote 30 minutes a day to making comics, and this will be with no excuses. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe you guys can yell at me if I miss an update or something. Anyway, so my inspirations for jumping in and doing this are obviously Kevin Cross. Also GazBot, who's out on the West Coast doing the Horror Wave 4. He's in his second round right now. H.C. Brown, Mike Emeritz, and a few other folks who are part of this 100 Days Making Comics club, I guess. My background, for those who don't know, I have a strange background, but I have a fine art degree from Mississippi State College, of all places, and I was a graphic designer for about 10 years, and I gave up my career as a graphic designer to be basically to follow a passion of being a full-time firefighter, which I am now. So I am a career firefighter, and with an art background and a fine art degree, classically sort of trained. So weird combination. Anyway, so currently I do a weekly, as best I can, a weekly webcomic for the website ems1.com, which is one of the larger news websites for EMTs and paramedics to get news and things. But I do a weekly webcomic for them called Frequent Flyers, and it's basically just a day-to-day, here's what happens, goofy stuff, learning stuff, news or whatever in a webcomic format. I've been doing that for almost a year, and it's been fun. So I'm going to continue to do that each week, and to be honest, I'm a little behind, so that will become one of my obstacles, and we'll talk about those later, because there are definitely some obstacles here. The other comic that I was doing is called Jake's, and Jake's was a comic about firefighters, similar to Frequent Flyers for EMTs. This was geared almost exclusively to firefighters. That has been sort of on hiatus as I sort of think in my head and try to retool things, and that's a lot about a lot of what this is going to be about. So hopefully I can get that back up and going and have some fun with that too. And the other thing that I've done is I've taken a year's worth of Jake's Fire comics and half a year of Frequent Flyers comics and put them into a book through a Kickstarter campaign that was successful this past June. So I have a copy of the book here somewhere. Where is it? The book. So Jake's and Frequent Flyers. So I have that out, and I guess that was a good start, but I want to build on that and do better. So that's a good segue to what my goals actually are for this challenge. I guess number one would be to try to make these birds go away. That is my weak attempt at adding some personality to this, because that's one of the things I want to do. I want to get more comfortable talking about myself, talking about my art, talking about my comics, and doing a better job of speaking about those things to help promote myself and sort of some of the messages that are in these comics. I legitimately want to make illustration or comics a retirement plan for me, or a side job now and a retirement plan for me when my fire career ends, whether it's voluntary or whatever, because firemen we're all one injury away from not having a full-time career in the fire service. So I want something to fall back on. The other part is with with making the 100 days of making comics or making these videos is for promotion. It gives me something to do every day that I can post to social media and promote my comic and the stuff I'm doing, and hopefully get feedback to, I guess, be better at what I'm doing or anything. I'm very wide open to critique and suggestion, and all those things. My feelings don't get hurt when somebody has something bad to say about the things that I'm doing, so I'm all for that. So those are really the goals. I want to make progress on my comic about firefighters and all these other sort of ancillary, personal, fix-it-upper type stuff. So what are the obstacles? These are the ones that are really going to sort of hurt the situation. The biggest one is the job. My schedule is I work every 4th day, so I work a 24-hour shift every 4 days, so 24 on, 72 off. I just came off shift this morning, and to be honest, I probably only got 2 or 3 hours of sleep last night, so bags and puffiness here, and fatigue is going to be an issue. Also, when I'm on duty, it'll be difficult to get in 30 minutes of actual anything focused on it, depending on how busy the day is. Obviously, towards the end of the night, between 10 and midnight, or midnight and whatever, I can try to squeeze in my 30 minutes, and I'm going to be dedicated to try to do that every shift I'm there. In addition, overtime or mandatory overtime shifts do show up, so those are obstacles. The other obstacle I have is that I'm committed to doing these sketch cards. So here's some of the recent ones. There, Batgirl and Spider-Gwen. But back in January, I committed myself to trying to do one of these every day. I'm about 60 behind, but if I do 2 a day through the end of the year, I'll have exceeded my goal. And that's really the thing. It takes me about an hour to do each of these, so I need about an hour and a half to 2 hours every day to stay caught up on those. That again ends at the end of the year, so hopefully I can do that, because I think it's really cool, and they're really fun to do anyway. The other part is Overwatch. I really enjoy playing Overwatch, and it certainly is killing my productivity in a lot of ways. I only play about an hour, maybe a half hour a day, a few matches just to do something, or not every day, but every couple of days. So I don't know, it's good to get away from the desk and unwind, or to not think about fire stuff or firefighter stuff, and do something different. So Overwatch is a problem, or potentially could be a problem. Everyday family life, everybody's got that excuse, so I'm going to throw that out there as an excuse. And the big one for me is there is a bun in the oven. My wife and I are going to have our first child, or well, she's going to have the child. I guess I'm going to watch. I don't know what I do. I just have to be there, I suppose. But she's due on January 9th, so all the more reason to start the 100 days now, because this should bring us to about January 1st. So if there's anything in between before, then life is going to get really difficult, but in theory I should be able to complete the 100 days challenge in time before Cletus the fetus arrives. So there's that. Let's talk about the comic. So Jake's comic, Jake's, again, was a comic about firefighters that I did for about a year, and it was a 3 or 4 panel strip of basically a firefighter who was brand new in the firehouse, and the daily tasks or challenges that Jake met. It was fun, but I think I have sort of identified or realized with myself that I am not a great joke writer or storyteller in a 3 or 4 panel sequence. The writing portion is difficult, and it takes away from the amount of time and energy I have for a particular story to draw in that 3 or 4 panels. I just lose all enthusiasm when and I keep reading the joke, and it's not, I don't know, it's not as funny, or it's not as good as I think it can be. In my head, I have an endless number of situations and stories and scenarios and combinations of things that happen in the firehouse, so there's no shortage of funny things that happen. It's just a matter of conveying some of that stuff, and I think adjusting everything so that the art style is more comical, and that that it's a single panel, so similar to a Far Side, where it's just a quick stab, a funny picture, and then move on to the next one. For some reason in my head, I think it's better. That would be Sushi Cat. She will be helping out, I guess. I don't know. So the single panel with maybe 1 or 2 lines of dialogue and some sort of narration or caption, I think might be the best for me. So we're going to explore that and see where it goes. Hopefully we can get there. The style, again, my style is all over the place, and then it will sort of insert here some, I guess, some samples. I'm all over the place. So anyway, so here's that. All right, so here you can see, you know, one of the prints that I've been or posters I've been putting out. This is 36 inches by 12 inches. I basically drew the individual ones, added color, textures, all that good stuff, put it into a poster, and I wrote a bunch of print or text underneath. And I have one for a fire truck, and I have one for a particular ambulance service that I worked for, and then also one that's just ambulances. These are were fairly popular with firefighters and EMTs, but it's you know, something where I'm combining that stuff. You'll see this is entirely different than the other stuff that I do, so no real style or consistency when you stare at all this stuff. But let's get this out of the way. Alright, so next in line, sort of more comic-y type stuff, but here goes. This is a piece of basically an illustration or a portrait or whatever of my captain, who has a helmet restoration business. So we stole a little bit from Spaceballs and gave him a giant helmet. Mark Van Oppen's one of the guys on the inspirational speech circuit, I guess, or I don't know. That's probably insulting, but he's got a great message, and it's these 4 things. So I drew that for him just as an excuse to start drawing firefighters. So there you go. Then started combining sort of the comic stuff and the fire stuff, and trying to imagine what, you know, in this case, what Superman would look like if he were a firefighter. So what would his gear look like? What would he look like? And continuing to sort of identify or figure out a drawing style. The next group are basically large charcoal drawings. This one right here of Abnormal, I don't know if you watch Mission Comics at all, but that's one of his characters. But these are just large charcoal drawings, and these are a series of portraits / caricatures that I did for the guys on my shift for Christmas one year. In college, charcoal was my thing. Doing large charcoal drawings was it. I have digital means to do these now, but I haven't quite figured out how to get sort of this messy, sort of dirty, I don't want to say rustic, but drawings with this type of energetic stroke. I like to convey, so like these marks here and these marks in the background, the energy that's in these doesn't convey quite as well to something like this, which is straight up comic illustration type thing. So where's the balance? What do I like doing? What do I want to show? Here's another piece that I did, same idea. brought it into Photoshop, added some textures, added some color, to try to spice things up a little bit. And here's another piece, same idea, just a firefighter, but again adding blue and textures and things to an already existing charcoal drawing. So style is not defined, to say the least, and how I work and what I work in also not defined. So I don't know. Thanks for looking at the art. Let's go back to, I don't know, you staring at me talking with birds spinning around my head. Back from looking at that stuff, here's the last bit. The other major, I guess, major focus, or the far-reaching goal, is there's a gentleman named Paul Combs, who's essentially an editorial cartoonist in the fire service, and he's phenomenal. So if you get a chance, go check out his stuff. Paul Combs, C-O-M-B-S is his last name. He's got a corner on the market in the publications, the periodicals, whatever you want to call them, the magazines every month, and prints and calendars. And he's basically, his work is household in the fire service. I want to be him. I want to be, you know, a piece of this worldwide sort of firefighter culture thing, and I really, it's a pretty far-reaching goal, I think, but I don't know. If we can't, if we reach all our goals, then what else do we have to reach for? Anyway, and the other part that we talked about before is trying to have sort of a backup, a retirement plan or something like that, and having, you know, a body of work to keep moving in that direction, and to get there is important. But in the short term, doing conventions, Comic-Cons, seminars or expos and things like that, I'm dabbling with, and I think, you know, there's a chance to have some success in those areas, and I haven't really figured out what the niche or the formula is in the fire service, and I think I'm too far away from the actual Comic-Con scene, from superhero stuff or anime stuff. So for me, there's going to be a balance there somewhere, and I feel like I can be successful in both arenas, the fire expo convention scene and the Comic-Con stuff. So again, this is going to be a journey over the next 3-4 months. And hopefully you guys can help me out some. So I don't know, ready, set, go. So today already I've done my 30 minutes, and partly to getting this video together and organizing my thoughts on sort of what my goals are and things like that. I have some sketches that I've been working on a little bit, and I'm playing off this idea of sort of like, at least in the short term, sort of the basic plot of The Incredibles, which is heroes that are normal people or having to be integrated in normal work life, who have these superpowers. So, you know, if I were to take known comic heroes now, Iron Man, Captain America, or whatever, what would they look like as firefighters or EMTs, and do they fit in all right? Or, you know, is the Hulk too big and clumsy to fit in the back of an ambulance? Is the Human Torch the worst firefighter ever because he sets everything on fire? Is wearing tights into a fire, or this idea that, you know, if Poison Ivy or any one of the female characters is in their slinky, sort of traditional, sexy comic book outfit, trying to fight a fire, you know, what jokes come from that, and how can we play with that? So real life scenarios with comic heroes jammed in the sort of, hopefully a or closer to a chibi style, or a more comic-y, cartoony style. So the style is going to be a big one that I'm working on, and then just sort of sorting out what type of story path or plot or anything like that. I'd like to keep it to original characters, but you know, I'm playing this game where I want to be I want to be involved in Comic-Cons, and merging the two seems like a likely candidate. Otis Frampton, Brian Kessinger, Eric Brunn, they've all done really good jobs of taking existing characters, making their own cartoon spin on it, writing their own little stories to them, and making some really fun comics and prints and things like that. So I think there's an opportunity there for me naturally in my head to make those connections. So I've written a lot of that stuff down today as part of my 30 minutes to again try to organize things and log them. I used to use a large sketchbook, but I'm switching to these like little thin ones, so hopefully I can sort of do a better job of feeling accomplished by finishing off only 50 or 60 or 70 pages versus a 200 page book. So that's it. Day 1 in the books. 99 more to go. I'll see you on the other side.